Hello everyone, so this might to some people think it's a skit, but it actually is real. This is the Irish Independent. It's actually a real thing. It's on the government website, the Department of Education website too. This is the thing the government are using our taxpayer dollars to fund, because it's getting funded by the state. They're getting 63,000 for training courses, take for example, if you're a hairdresser, to talk about this, pretty much what to talk about. For hairdressers to want to do it. And again, this is not a parody, just to say this is reality. This is all in 2025. So as you see here, hairdressers bombers be trained to talk about climate with customers. Now, I'm sure every Irish person knows when they go to the local barber in the local village in the local town, the same as when I go to get my hair cut, it's always the weather. We'll talk first, it's awful weather, it's great weather, there's always the Irish typical thing. You start talking about the weather. Like, that's just a typical thing, regardless where you go. Irish people always talk about the weather in terms of if it's sunny, if it's raining, what's the story. But this is just pretty much alarmist, to trying to get people alarmist and frightened and scared. That's pretty much what this is about, in a way. Because let's be fair, you're going to get your hair cut. You're not going to get a lecture. If people wanted to go and study environment, they would go to college and study it. And I think that's fair, and I think that's reasonable. If you want to go and learn about the environment, or learn about whatever in the environment in terms of that, you go to college, you go and do an education, or you go and join the Green Party. God bless us and save us if you do, but that's where you go. You shouldn't be going to the hairdresser to get a lecture, because nobody's paying for a lecture on climate and the environment. People know the issues. People know the harm that's been caused, not by the Irish nation, but by other countries in the Middle East, in other countries far east of Asia, that are causing huge amount of pollution and coal industry, and Ireland is pretty much a small country with only 5 million people that has maybe a 0.1% difference in the whole world, regardless of what it is. But yeah, as I said, this is the main thing, and this is the main issue for me. Whatever about if a barber wants to talk about it with a customer, the customer's happy enough to talk about it, I don't think we should be forcing people to have this discussion in the barbers, and especially because they're paying for the luxury to be there. As I said, there's a scheme. This is the scheme, the government, which is funded by the Department of Education, as I say, for €63,000 grant for hairdressers. So pretty much it's the same as if anybody does picking up a box. Is usually the standard thing for people to do. It's like a course, I suppose you would say. You go for a few hours. That seems to be what they want to do here. And it's pretty stupid if you ask me. Because again, at the end of the day, it's up to the person. If they want to talk about it, they can. But usually with barbers in Ireland, it's all about the local, or what's happened with you, or how's the family, or how was Mary, or here she wasn't well, or sure, look at how, you hold Johnny up the road, or he's getting married, and sure, Mary went off to Australia, or that's the typical conversation you have in your rural Irish barbers across the country, hairdressers in rural Ireland. And I couldn't imagine the majority of rural Ireland people being like, let's talk about the environment and how this is happening, and how we should get rid of all the cars and get electric cars and get rid of put people in prison for burning turf, do all this. Let's be fair. But this is a bit, and I think everybody, I've looked at all the responses online in terms of this article, and in terms of just people speaking about it in general, on Facebook, on Twitter, on other platforms too. And the fact, I think one or two people saying, yeah, we should do it. But at the end of the day, they can do it if they want. Again, I'm not stopping anybody. If they want to talk about it, they can talk to the heart's content with the barber. But I don't think the hairdresser, because what they're suggesting here is the hairdresser and the barber will try and make you talk about it. That's more or less what they're suggesting. Because let's be fair, the majority of people don't want a lecture. They get a lecture every day from RT about the environment, and for the Green Party, we got a lecture from Eamon Ryan every day of the week, and the Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael giving us lectures every day of the week. But again, these are the people that get their private jets and off they go to Davos and off they go to here and there and everywhere. So, we take no lectures from them. But, people want to go and get their haircut. It's a business. If people want to talk, go ahead. There's no issue at all with that. It's a free country, free society. But trying to get people, again, this is the thing. They're trying to ish their way, and I will use the word ish. They're trying to ish their way into people's conversations, to try and disrupt conversations, I suppose, in a way. And to try and say, look, we're going to talk about this, nothing else. Don't worry about Mary and Johnny, or don't worry about the football team winning the cup, or whatever the story may be. That seems to be what they're doing here. It's not like it's a voluntary thing. It seems like you have to do it. But again, I don't agree with it. That first of all, they're going to get people. Take for example, there's a local woman down the road. She owns a hairdresser. She wants to go on this scheme, and she has to go to this place, and the government pay for it. stuff like that. Like, it's an awful lot of money too, and it's 63,000 euro grant. But the majority of people don't agree with it, to be totally honest. It's simple as that. The majority of people, and I think the majority of people would agree that if you want to learn about the environment, talk about the environment, join the Green Party. If you want to learn about the environment and be a environmentalist, go to the college, become an environmentalist, learn college courses. But I don't think going on about, like they're saying about the hairdressers, deep in personal trust in one. But this is the thing: the majority of the local hairdressers I know, they talk about the local area, how I'm keeping, how anything happened with them in fun and there, what's happening. They're not worried about this. They're not thinking about. They're thinking about if can I pay the business bills at the end of the week. They're not thinking about the environment. Let's be fair. And the majority only Irish Joes, they're just trying to survive. They're not worried about what Eamon Ryan is trying to do and stuff like that. And that's the simple stuff. But again, as I say, there's no harm in people if they want to talk, but they can talk. But if we went to our local hairdressers in the morning and stayed there, say for the whole day, and we got people coming in and out, old women, old men, whatever, young men, and we asked them a simple question: would they go in and talk about the environment after listening to it on OT every day of the week? And the majority of people, elderly people particularly, and young people too, they'd be like, I don't want more lectures. I get lectures every day from Eamon Ryan and from Leo, like Simon House and me, Hole Martin, and them on their private jets. The majority of Irish people say, away with that. We don't want anything to do with that. We didn't ask this. Nobody, the vast majority of Irish people wouldn't want. I never asked for this to be thing. And again, especially because it's trying to ush their way, and I use the word ish their way into conversations in terms of trying to start the conversation so they can keep talking about it and keep talking about it and keep talking about it. But I think it's ludicrous, because again, it's not like you're going there to get a lecture. It'd be different if you were going there to listen to a lecture from somebody, fair enough, but you're paying for the luxury of getting your hair cut and giving money to that business. And at the end of the day, if you don't want to talk about it, you don't want to talk about it. But what they're suggesting here is either you listen to the hairdressers at the highway, more or less. But it's ludicrous. It is ludicrous, because people know already about environmental issues. And they don't need to be lectured. They don't need to be lectured when they go to the hairdresser, because the next thing we hear, they want to lecture you now when you go to the shop. And our children in schools are getting lectured every day about environment. And it's important, of course, environment's important. I clean the streets, it is important for your local environment and stuff. Don't get me wrong about that, but literally being alarmist, and that's what's happening here in society. It's alarmist. It's pretty much just fear-mongering in a way, in a lot of cases. And we don't talk about the real issues, like China and other countries polluting half of the planet with their coal power plants and stuff. We don't talk about that, but we talk about a few people in rural Ireland burning a bit of turf. And that's the issue. We're not focused on the big issue. We're focusing on the small guy when we should be really focusing on the big guy and how to deal with the big guy in terms of the pollution. Because you tackle the big pollution, then you worry about the small pollution. Because trying to stop a few people in rural Ireland burning a bit of turf, or stop all the factories in China burning plastic 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's no brainer. Which one do you do? But yeah, this is ludicrous. And I think the majority of people would agree. If somebody doesn't agree, then that's fair enough. But I think the majority of Irish people, genuine Irish people, would be like, this is ludicrous. This is ludicrous. And the Irish government are paying for this to be done. And I don't think many hairdressers, just to say the last thing I say, I don't think many hairdressers and barbers would be willing to do it. They'd be like, what benefit does this have to me? What benefit? Because at the end of the day, you have to remember, these people who own hairdressers and barbers, they're being fucked over by the government the same as you and me. They'll think about, can I pay my electricity bill at the end of the week? Can I pay my rent at the end of the week? Can I pay my property tax? Can I pay the bills of my house? They're not worried about, let's talk about the environment. They're worried about, can I make a living? That's the simple thing. Nothing else matters. Simple as that. And I think the majority of hairdressers will laugh if somebody said, let's do this. And I think to be widely so. But anyway, let me know what you take. Subscribe for more. And bye.